There's a little glitch there. Glitch. I can't talk. Good morning. It is, are we on Thursday already? Thursday morning, and this morning we're going to be talking to Angel Scott. Angel has just joined me. I'm going to invite her in. For once, I actually have coffee. Hi.
Good morning.
Oh, how can I hit? I gotta raise my. There we go.
So let's see. Can you see me okay?
I can see you okay. Yeah.
Oh!
Oh no.
Shoot.
It just has to happen.
Okay, of course, right? Because it couldn't be smooth.
No, there's no live Instagram where there is.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, there has to be
There
time.
we go. Okay, let's see. Now I want to make sure you're in there good. I have you in my little tripod, but I thought it was trustworthy, but evidently it's not. Let's see.
Oh, is it a phone one? Yeah.
No, it's actually like an actual tripod, but
Okay.
yeah, there we go.
Okay. I was just telling you,
Okay.
I actually have coffee this morning. You can check the color of my cup. I was like, let's try a coffee chat with actual
There we
coffee.
go. I actually have tea. So those of you who follow me know I don't do caffeine. So I have ginger and lemon
Okay.
tea.
Yes.
That's what I'm sipping on this morning.
Yeah, the running joke is that I named it Coffee Chat and I don't drink coffee. So
I love it.
let's try a coffee chat with coffee. Okay.
How are you this morning? Are you dizzy
Good.
because my phone like fell across the room?
Oh no, it's actually been a relatively slow morning for once, so that's
Nice.
cool.
Good.
Yeah, moving a little slower too because I tried some isometric chin-up holds yesterday.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah,
On your
so I'm
page.
like, you kind of feel that the next day.
Yeah, those are an awesome way to start making progress on those pull-ups. A lot
Yeah,
harder than people realize. I think a lot of people start off like going straight for the pull-up, but it's like try
yeah,
that first.
yeah. I can do the actual chin-up now. It's just now I want to increase the strength so I can do more reps because I'm training for next year to do the Murph challenge.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, so that one in that challenge you have to do 100 of them. So I'm like, I gotta start building strength and endurance,
Yeah,
and I felt like isometric holds might be a good way to do that. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Cool.
So for those of you who don't know Angel, Angel's gonna introduce herself and give you some background on her.
Yes. So, good morning, everybody. Hope you got your hot cup or cold cup ready. I am a holistic nutritionist, certified personal trainer, and yoga teacher. I am originally from Toronto, Canada, so that's kind of like the connection that Jen and I have. We met on Instagram, and I relocated from Toronto to just outside of Nashville in Tennessee. And so I rarely come across Canadians. So anytime, and people will tell you, like if you're Canadian and you meet me, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to be friends because I don't meet many Canadians here. So that's how we connected. But the work that I do is basically I help women use strategic food and fitness to reduce inflammation and create better hormone balance, specifically thyroid autoimmunity, because I am a thyroid disease warrior. And so I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. I'm really picky about my words. So I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, but I've spent the last 2 years in remission. So yeah, I'm just on a mission to help other women through the journey and really help other women learn how to advocate for themselves when it comes to their own health and wellness. So
That's amazing. I love it. And your last name's Scott. Now, are you maiden name Scott or married into Scott?
Married into Scott.
Okay. Because my
Yeah.
maiden name is Scott.
Oh, okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know that.
So I don't come across a lot of Scott. So when I do, like, cool.
Yes, married into Scott.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe distant relatives. Who knows?
I'm sure.
So this morning, for those of you who have any fitness, nutrition, or health questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can discuss.
Yeah.
Do you want to give like a little background on exactly what holistic nutrition is for those of you, for those that don't know? Because sometimes people hear the word holistic nutrition and they think, oh, healthy nutrition, but people might not understand the full concept of what that is.
Right. So basically, I use food as a way to strategically address, health issues
Mm-hmm.
beyond weight loss, right? So, and don't get me wrong, I do have a lot of clients. Actually, most clients initially come to me because they want to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, that's a sidebar because that's something else that I'm hoping to kind of change in terms of um, like the industry standard. I just think that there's way too much focus on weight loss and
Yeah.
we're not focusing on our health
Mm.
enough. But again, that's a little bit of a sidebar. But
Yeah.
yeah, just really using nutrition as medicine really and helping
Mm-hmm.
our body heal and looking at not just what we're putting in our bodies, but like lifestyle, how we're sleeping, how your body
Mm-hmm.
is able to process that food, right?
Uh,
Versus, here's a 1,200 calorie meal plan and good luck, right? So again, looking at all the different facets of how nutrition can impact your health and wellness.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like for those of you dealing with nutritional issues right now, you probably understand how much like one little type of food can upset your day. Like for
Right.
me, I figured out I was lactose intolerant, and for the longest time, I'm like had severe dietary issues all day. I had dietary issues anyways because they took my gallbladder out, but they
Oh,
were being
wow.
compounded by the fact that I was also became lactose intolerant because they took my gallbladder out.
Okay.
Yeah. And they had taken my
Yeah.
gallbladder out because I had estrogen buildup from all the pregnancies that caused stones. So I had like
Okay.
no other factors to take my
Right.
gallbladder out except for that, because at that point they no longer just took out the stones, they took out the whole organ.
Right.
And I end up being the 20% that still has issues when they take it out. So like, yay!
Yeah, that's actually it's interesting because
Yeah.
a, maybe a year ago now,
Yeah.
my husband was having some digestive issues
Mm-hmm.
and we went to a traditional medicine doctor here just
Yeah.
because I wanted to have a particular test done.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us, even before I made the appointment, I wanted to make sure that the doctor would in fact order that test, and they reassured
Yeah.
us. And of course, when we got there, it was a completely different story.
Yeah.
But um, she ended up, recommending that he just get his gallbladder taken out. And I'm like, hold on here,
Yeah. That's a big.
right? Yeah, so right. And I feel like it's become really
Mm.
a really popular thing. I have a lot of clients that have come to me
Yeah.
and finding out that they've had their gallbladders removed.
Yeah.
So
See, the thing is I had mine out when, okay, so that was two, no, what was that? That was after Lucas. So my third pregnancy. That was
mm,
back in 2007. So I wasn't like, it was a while ago, right? And back
yeah,
then I was in my 20s and I didn't really realize the degree of how the gallbladder
right,
works and how much you actually need it. For those
right,
of you who don't know, it's basically like a regulator for your liver. So
right,
when they take that out, your liver is really confused on what it's supposed to do. And then
right.
you're getting sick. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah, it's fun eating like high fat foods and caffeine stuff. Another reason I don't drink coffee.
right.
Uh,
Ooh,
So yeah, I really wish I would have advocated for them to just take the stones out because I had
right.
no other things that would have caused them. So if they took the stones out, I probably would have been fine. And
Right. And that's the thing. That's another thing that I'm really passionate about because I feel like a lot of times, we as women just aren't able to really, voice
yeah,
what it is that we want.
hmm
And sometimes it's because we don't know,
yeah,
right? Like especially when it comes to medical
yeah,
issues, but I always encourage people take time. And I know it's hard when you're in the midst of dealing with a health issue, right? So if you have symptoms that are making you miserable, I know
mm,
how hard it is to be like, well, let me take some time and think about it and do some research and ask some other people.
yeah,
Um, but sometimes it can
yeah,
be really worth it to wait it out a little bit.
yeah.
And then it ultimately, if you decide to go ahead with whatever
Mm,
procedure, that's fine, but then you can feel a little
yeah.
better about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, like usually most people who get their gallbladder out are fine, but there are those 20% that still have dietary issues. So lucky me. One of my friends was saying, Aggie, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease as well in remission for 10 years.
Yay! Yay! That's
Yeah,
so
and
awesome.
Aggie's a friend of mine from back in kindergarten, like long
I
time ago.
love it. I love it. It's really interesting because when I was first diagnosed, like I had never come across anyone who had Graves' disease.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, like as
Mhm.
in probably the first 3 years, I didn't even
Mhm.
tell anyone outside my immediate family.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting, like ever since I've become more vocal about it,
Mhm.
like I'm encountering all these people who either have Graves or know somebody who has Graves. So it's really interesting how that happens.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel really, I'm so happy for your friend that she's reached remission. I know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are still really, really suffering with
Mhm.
really bad symptoms. And so,
Sure. And it's not a disease that you hear about a lot, too,
right,
which is another thing, right? When you don't have people talking about it, it tends to
exactly.
go under the rug. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
it's what I call like, those invisible diseases because
Yeah.
unless you're someone who suffers from like severe thyroid
Mhm.
eye disease, you
Mhm.
won't really notice. And even then, you might just be like, oh, their eyes are a little
Yeah.
different, but it wouldn't necessarily
Mhm.
stick out to you like, oh, this person is really sick, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and so, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I've decided to become more vocal about my journey. But
Yeah.
I'm really big about the idea that
Mhm.
I know how much it sucks,
Yeah.
especially when you're in the midst of the hard parts of it.
Mhm.
But I also feel like just like we talked about earlier, it's like a lot of people just don't know what's out there and
Mhm.
know the power of food and know the power of lifestyle changes.
Mhm.
And even though there's no cure, you can still live really, really well,
Yeah.
without feeling miserable.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that's what I want people to know. Whether you're in remission or not, whether you're still taking medication or not, you can still feel really, really good because there's a lot of
Mhm.
people who are still on medication who still feel horrible all the time,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
And you work with people to develop plans, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
they can contact you through your Instagram, or what's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody wants to work with
Yeah, Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot these days. So yeah, you can shoot me a DM or my website is simplydefinedfitness.com. So you
you?
can
Okay.
always check me out there. But yeah, so what I do is I help people create a, nutritional strategy along with
Mhm.
like supplements, herbs, that type of thing to
Mhm.
again just start to deal with some of the underlying things because the other thing that I found is
Mhm.
most people and most traditional doctors have this idea. I know,
Yeah.
like when I was first diagnosed, the endocrinologist, so I had a naturopath back home in Canada that
Mhm.
initially diagnosed me. Um, and so when I came back to Nashville, I had to get an endocrinologist because I had to check my labs every month. And
Okay.
so the endocrinologist here was like, oh, like right away, like first appointment. First appointment. You can go ahead and just get rid of your thyroid.
Oh,
Like,
what?
oh, you might want to just, start thinking about it because there is no cure for this. And,
Yeah.
like just right away. And I kid you not, every single month for an entire year that I went to see this man, he reminded
Yeah.
me that I could just get rid of my thyroid. Right? Right. And what people don't understand, especially when you have the autoimmune component, when
Yeah.
you remove your thyroid and your system is still attacking itself, your body is just going to find other tissue to attack. So
Yes.
removing your thyroid does, if you have, again,
Mhm.
either Hashimoto's or Graves' disease,
Mhm.
again, that autoimmune component, if you're not dealing with that,
Mhm.
taking out your thyroid is not going to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not. And there are some people I've heard them reference the fact that yeah, I've had thyroidectomy and I feel better. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like that's interesting, and really I feel like that's temporary if they are not dealing with that autoimmune component because your body is still attacking itself. You just
Yeah.
removed the tissue that it was attacking,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. You
So
haven't taken out the disease. You just took out part of your body.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it's really important,
Mhm.
right? Like that tiny little gland that most of us never
Mhm.
pay attention to. I
Mhm.
admit I never paid attention to anything related to my thyroid.
Yeah.
When I was in my 30s, I had a like kind of like a random
Mhm.
thyroid test just because I was competing in fitness. I used to do competitive fitness.
Oh,
And
cool.
so pre-season, I would always
Mhm.
have like a bunch of lab work, and
Yeah.
that was part of it. So my sports medicine doctor, actually, so not my
Mhm.
regular doctor, my sports medicine doctor ordered it, and it was fine. And I
Mhm.
never thought about it again, ever,
Yeah.
until I was diagnosed with really, really, really severely high levels,
Oh, really?
which can be really dangerous. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yes, I want people to pay more attention sooner,
Yeah.
way before I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah. Usually, like I don't want to I don't want to crap on all doctors because there's some really good doctors, right? And I wanted to be a doctor, so for me to crap on
Oh,
doctors, not good. But yeah, I really wish that I had gotten a second opinion from another doctor, or even just like advocated, right? And
yeah.
probably with you, like you're advocating, like no, don't take my thyroid. Like I want a second opinion.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I literally was like, like I it's funny because I was like, okay, what are the stats? Like, how many people go into remission? How
Mhm.
long does it take most people?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh,
Mhm.
well, there's a small percentage, and
Mhm.
like totally trying to downplay it.
Mhm.
And I even said to him, I'm like, okay, but when we take out my thyroid, what happens to my autoimmunity? Oh, well, right? So
Yeah.
I remember specifically saying to this endocrinologist, I'm like, if there is even a little tiny,
Yeah.
like it could be 0.0 point whatever percent of a chance that I can help my body heal,
Yeah.
then I'm going to try that first. And for me, again, I was at the point where I wasn't dealing with something like a thyroid cancer. Again,
Yeah.
completely different ball game.
Mhm.
But I felt like, okay, let me at least make the effort and see what
Mhm.
I can do, with the information that I know in terms
Yeah.
of like I said, the power of nutrition and lifestyle.
Mhm.
I don't think we acknowledge it enough.
Yeah.
I don't think, the weight loss and pharmaceutical industry, wants us to know that. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much that we can do with just
Yeah.
with food and
For sure.
lifestyle.
Kev's just asking what exactly is Graves' disease.
So, yeah, so Graves is a thyroid related autoimmune disease.
Mhm.
And so it specifically involves hyperthyroidism, so where you have an overactive thyroid. And basically, your body is attacking your thyroid gland. And as a result of that, you can experience anything from, like overheating in your body, so like really hot and sweaty all of the time,
Mhm.
to tachycardia,
Mhm.
um, to tremors,
Mhm.
um, hair loss, significant weight loss.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, yeah, just it's. I feel like there's just so much, and a lot of it, can be easy to explain away. I know that that's something that I did.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I lost a few pounds. Luckily for me, it wasn't drastic enough.
Mhm.
That wasn't an alarm for me in terms of weight loss. But I did start to get really hot all the time,
Okay.
which was kind of rare for me. I kind
Yeah.
of stay either neutral or a little on the cooler side.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, me being really, really warm all of the time, I was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, like, oh, my metabolism's kicking up, right? Like, oh, I'm warm all the time. No, that wasn't it. And then I actually did start to experience tachycardia, which again, I don't know how I explain that one away, but
Mhm.
I feel like when we're really busy, it's
Mhm.
easy to rationalize anything, right? Um, yeah, and I did a lot of that. Like, oh, I was exhausted all of the
Yeah.
time. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm tired because I got up really early. I'm
Mhm.
getting up really early. Like, of course
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I'm getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Of course, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, chronically could barely keep my eyes open at 8 o'clock in the morning after like only being up for a few hours, and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, those are some of the symptoms. And like I said, um unless you really kind of tune into your own body, or unless you have, like even my husband didn't really notice. I'd mention these things to him, right? I'm like, oh
Mhm.
wow, like I'm like, oh, feel my heart rate, like, oh, my heart, but my heart is racing. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's strange. But it wasn't enough for either of us to be like, okay, what the heck is going on? And I was even actually developing a goiter. That's another thing.
Oh, really?
And again, I missed it, completely missed it.
Yeah.
Right? We're looking at ourselves all of the time, but are we really looking at ourselves? So it
Yeah.
wasn't until like I look at pictures, like old pictures before I was diagnosed, because the like my naturopath suspects that I'd been dealing with it for years, right?
Yeah.
But I look back in pictures, I'm like, there it is, there's
Yeah.
that goiter. Like I,
Yeah.
but at the time, had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So yes,
Yeah. But sometimes it's also that you don't want to admit, though, right? That you have
right,
a thing. Like that was,
right,
I had an eating disorder that started in high school, and like I didn't want to admit that I had anorexia, right? So
right,
it's like, oh, no, 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 I'm fine. I'm fine.
right,
I'm thin. I'm just getting thin. Like I'm fine. I'm fine. It's like, no, you're not fine.
right,
Yeah. So
right,
sometimes it's the component that people don't actually want to admit or actually think that they have that thing, so they keep
right.
justifying symptoms.
Yeah, and especially for me as someone like in the,
Mhm.
health and wellness industry, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like how could I be sick, right?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. But
Exactly.
again, that's even more like the reason why I'm so determined, yeah,
Mhm.
to let people know like it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
It's not just it's and that's the other thing. It's not just about what we eat because
Mhm.
I ate well, you
Mhm.
know. Um, I worked out all the time, right? So it's not it you
Yeah.
can still do all of those things and get
Mhm.
um sick, right? If you're not dealing with things like stress.
Mhm.
I didn't realize at the time how stressed I really was. The
Mhm.
stress of relocating to a new country, the stress of being newly married, the stress of when I first got here,
Mhm.
you know, working in an industry that wasn't my passion,
Yeah.
right? So it's like all of that is stress and
Mhm.
chronic stress.
Yeah.
Huge, 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 huge impact.
Yeah.
So,
It affects so much that people don't understand.
right,
Yeah. For those of you like even trying to lose weight right now, if you're stressed out, you're literally like going an uphill.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, uphill with like a really heavy weighted
Yeah.
backpack on.
Right?
Yeah,
Like possible, but it's going to be a lot harder. So
yes.
you do yoga, right? For
Yeah, so I also it's actually interesting. I started my yoga journey as a way to kind of help me
yeah.
calm down and like de-stress and deal, yes, and deal with my grades. So
Yeah.
initially, I'll never forget this. So we had tried this studio
Mm.
um, and loved it. And it's so weird because I had tried yoga like for years off and
Yeah.
on before this. And I was like, I just couldn't do it. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I can't. My brain was way too big. I'm like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
But we tried this studio, fell in love, signed up,
Yeah.
and then I was diagnosed and couldn't work out for like 6 months. So I was so bummed. But as soon as I could, yeah, my husband and I, we got on the yoga train and I love, love, love it now. Now it is like one of my biggest ways to de-stress, right? And I know a lot of people think of yoga as like all of the pretty poses and complicated poses you see,
Yeah.
right? That is a part of it. That is not the main or most important part of yoga, right? It's really just for me, it was the pause, like it's like taking time to just slow down, to
Mhm.
tune into my breathing. Like
Yeah.
that in itself, laying on your floor and doing deep breathing is yoga.
It's also a workout. Like people don't understand how hard
Yes,
moves are.
yes, yeah. But I also want people to know you don't have to I think the yoga that most of us see is
Mhm.
not the only form of yoga, right? Anybody can do yoga,
Mhm.
regardless of how, fit
Mhm.
you are or not, right?
Mhm.
There are different styles of yoga, and anybody can do yoga at any time in their life.
Yeah.
It has amazing benefits for sure.
Mhm. And I love how you that your mind wouldn't shut off, because that's me trying meditation or self hypnosis. I'm like, okay, quiet the mind, quiet the mind.
Yeah,
Fine, we're doing this right now. Like, just
I feel you, Jen. That used to be me. Like, and even sometimes now it can be me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest thing I found that helps is just
Yeah.
like focusing on my breathing. Like that's
Yeah.
it. And eventually, it may take some time, especially depending on what I have going on. But the
Yeah.
more you just literally like laser focus
Yeah.
on your breathing,
Yeah.
eventually that helps to kind of, and every time, if your mind wanders, that's okay. Just bring it right back to your
Yeah.
breathing.
Yeah.
I think people do think right away they have to like, oh, like I have to get it, right? It's like this thing, like you have to, once you start meditating, you'll get it. Like, no, we don't do anything else that way, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while, it's just like anything
Yeah.
else.
I'm better at it. I did this transformational mindset coaching program, which is important. And he
Mm,
was like, your mind, if it wanders, it wanders, right? It's fine. But it's like bringing yourself back to what you want to focus on after you catch yourself wandering. And then another one of the coaches in the program had suggested doing a counting exercise. So like counting up to 10. And if your mind leaves from the counting, then you have to start back over at 1. And then you keep practicing counting up to 10 without your mind wandering until you can actually just focus on counting up to 10 in
I
your head.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I usually just count like um
Mm-hmm.
keep counting, like
Mm-hmm.
ascending until like I think it was the other night. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was determined not to get up because I didn't want to wake all the way up. And so I did that actually. I started counting until I just fell
Yeah.
back asleep. Like I forced myself to
Yeah.
just breathe and count until I fell back
Yeah.
asleep. And it worked.
And I find another good thing that I started doing before I try and meditate is a brain dump. So everything in my head, I just like write it out on a piece of paper because then it
Yes.
helps me not to like try and think about all those things while I'm trying to relax, right?
Yes. I do that too, actually.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that. It was yesterday on Clubhouse, this Wellness Wednesday room that we
Mhm.
host. But yes, taking time to just, especially for people like us who like our brains are like, "Arr." If
Really?
I don't do that, right? If I don't do that, like as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'll be like, okay, so tomorrow I have to do this, and then at
Yeah.
night I have to do that, and then right? But I literally go through my entire day, then like
Yeah.
everything I have planned. Okay, wake up at this time, have
Mhm.
breakfast at this time, have a client at that time, like every single thing,
Mhm.
just to get it out of my system, if you
Yeah,
will, so that I'm not, pondering it all night.
for sure.
But another really, really helpful thing, I don't know if people know this or realize this, but you know, logging off, shutting down all the things, so phones,
Mhm.
iPads, TVs.
Mhm.
I always encourage my clients at least 60 minutes before bedtime. I would love longer.
Mhm.
But yeah, just shutting off all
Mhm.
of the devices.
Mhm.
Because even though, even having, let's say, your cell phone in your room,
Yeah.
um, right? It's like our brain is still like, ooh, right? So yes, I absolutely encourage that too. I try to shut everything off at least an hour before bedtime. And I do spend that time either, that's usually when I'm taking my shower and then I'm doing my brain dump, but at least all of my devices have been off for a while. And I also don't sleep with the TV or cell phone or like any electronic stuff in our bedroom.
Okay. Yeah, those are good tips for
Yeah.
those who are able to do that. Some people have like such a hard time like just shutting everything off.
I know, but that's the thing. That's why you got to do it. And you will be you'll be so surprised. You'll be so surprised. I've had clients that like struggle to sleep, and the
Yeah.
moment we take all the things out of their
Mhm.
bedroom, and make it really, really dark. Like remember,
Yeah.
our body responds to like if like light means oh we're up and awake, right? Dark
Yeah.
means it's time to rest. And so
Yeah.
even yeah, like subtle things like the little that we don't hear that's coming from a cell phone that's right beside you
Yeah.
is yeah is keeping your brain like oh.
For those of you who have issues shutting your brain off, you're not alone.
Right, right, I'm with you.
Many tips as we can give you. Another one I wanted to touch on though too with you is for those who are experiencing like dietary issues but aren't sure how to pinpoint things and might not be able to get into a doctor right now because I know lots of offices are backlogged and stuff.
Right.
What's a way that people could sort of start narrowing it down what's actually bothering them?
So, from a nutritional standpoint, I always like to start with what I
Mm,
call a big three initially, right? So, I would do just a simple elimination diet. So, starting with
mm,
dairy
mm,
and gluten. So, those are really the big two for most people, right? Dairy and gluten.
mm,
I would do one at a time. I
mm,
would do it for a really long time. So, I know some people are like, oh, I ditched gluten for a week. I didn't notice a difference.
mm,
Give yourself a little bit more time. So
mm,
I like to say, 2 to 4 weeks.
mm,
It usually doesn't take that long.
mm,
Um, but give yourself some time, not just for your body to adjust to that elimination, but
mm,
also for your lifestyle, right? So you can
mm,
really give yourself time to start exploring, okay, what
mm,
gluten-free options are out there, right?
mm,
Like how can I slowly start gravitating away from all the gluten?
mm,
Get familiar with that section of your grocery store, right?
mm,
So again, just give yourself time. So start with, start
mm.
with gluten, then move on to dairy after you've kind of mastered that, and really taking time to tune into how your body has responded to that. I
Okay.
think yeah, like I said, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I did it and I didn't feel anything. Yeah,
Mhm,
but did you? Like, take a moment. Oh, guess what? That chronic knee pain that you had has gone away, right? Like little tiny things. Oh, you were really, really achy, and all of a sudden you're not really achy anymore, right?
yeah.
So it takes us time to tune into those things when it comes to our bodies. So again,
Mm,
just give yourself time. Start with a simple elimination diet.
mm,
And if you go through those, then you're like, like
mm,
not still not seeing or feeling as much of a difference as you'd like,
yeah.
I would still really encourage people to keep those things out
Mhm,
and add to it,
yeah.
right? Because we know, actually, I just posted the other day on my Instagram page about gluten because there
Mm,
is this idea that unless you have celiac disease, that
mm,
you're fine with gluten. I
mm,
didn't have any sensitivity to gluten,
yeah.
right? I didn't have celiac disease. But number one, we know that none of us can fully digest gluten, right?
Mhm,
Like none of us can fully digest it.
mhm,
Yes, some of us are more sensitive than others,
yeah.
but we know that it can create it creates issues when it comes to our digestive system. And
Okay.
we know nowadays everything, like we are learning, everything is tied to our digestive system,
Okay.
right? So I think when it comes honestly to overall wellness, I would
Mhm,
encourage anybody to tune into their gut health because it is that important. If you do nothing else, if you're healthy, if you feel fine,
mm,
tune into your gut health. Autoimmunity is tied to your gut health.
yeah.
Right? There's so much that is tied, our brain health tied to our gut health.
Mhm,
Um, that's the place where our nutrients are absorbed,
mhm,
if they are absorbed, depending on what's happening in your gut. That's
mm,
the place where toxins and things are kept out, right?
yeah.
Again, depending on what's happening there.
Mm,
So, yes, my recommendation, start with a simple elimination diet.
mm,
And then again, do what you can to
mhm.
really hone in and improve your gut health because
Yeah.
we all need need some gut health help.
Yeah. And like for me, I kept a food diary for those of you who have issues remembering mentally. Um,
Yes.
keep like write down how you feel after meals or how you feel at the end of the day after eating.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Definitely journal, right? So it's
Mm,
like when you're eating it, what you're combining it with,
mm,
again, how you're feeling
mm,
immediately after, but also during. Like some people don't realize, like I've had clients, for example, they'll be like, oh, I don't have any issues with this food, but
mm.
while they're eating, the entire time they're burping.
Yeah.
Well, that's a sign,
That's a sign.
right? Like, yeah. Or yeah, no, I don't really have an issue, but when I eat so and so, I'm sneezing.
Yeah.
That's a sign,
Yeah.
right? And it's again these subtle things that we can
Mm,
miss,
yeah.
right? And we just don't tie together even.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean there because for me, it was like, so I would drink regular milk and I would eat cheese, and within like 15, 20 minutes, I was sick and gassy.
Mm,
So I'm like, this has got to be lactose intolerance. Like,
right.
is it just, it's like the symptoms were so there, and I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. I'm like, okay, I hate this.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
let's just commit and let's just try going lactose free. And like within 3 days, I felt so much better. Like,
That's
oh,
awesome.
it's like to eat and not feel sick.
Right. And that's the other thing too. I think just, we were raised to like milk was a staple, right?
Mm,
Like you need dairy,
mm,
right? Canada Food Group,
yeah,
right? Remember that? It's like, yeah,
mm,
you need dairy.
yeah. Or
That's
you,
what we're told,
yeah, you need
right? Right. Right. Exactly. But the marketing of it
yeah,
has really told us that we need dairy. Not as much as we need calcium, right? Like, oh,
mm,
we need calcium, but where do you get it? Like
yeah.
dairy is the only place to get calcium, right?
I can still do milk now, but I actually have to buy lactose-free milk if I want to do milk, and I can only still do it in small portions because of my lack of gallbladder. It's fun, guys. Like food diaries are fun. You figure
Yes.
out
Yeah. And
that's
you know what? Nowadays too, there's so many ways to like substitute things. Like for example, now, like I said, I didn't have any issues with gluten, or so I thought.
yeah,
But of course, it was wreaking havoc on my gut health, and
yeah,
I just was not being mindful about it.
yeah.
But now it's like if I have
Mm,
gluten, it's
mm,
immediate. Like it's immediate. Like I get really, really stuffy. It's so crazy how
mm.
immediate it is and how I'm able to tune in so much better to how it is that my body reacts. But it's right away.
Yeah,
And I mean, I grew up eating all the
yeah.
glutinous things.
Or if you know you're gonna react, but it's like it's so good and it's just one time because it's like it's a cake that you want to have and
Oh,
like you know you're gonna pay for it, but it's like okay, like, just want to
I have to admit, Jen, no, I think I used to do that with dairy growing up because I love ice cream. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you've seen on my page, like
yeah,
I love ice cream. Like I would rather give up anything. Like I would probably give up an arm
yeah,
if I could if I could keep ice cream. And so yeah, I used to eat eat a lot of ice cream growing up because I love it. And so initially, when I was looking at getting rid of dairy, I'm like, what am
yeah,
I going to do about ice cream? I tried literally all of the plant-based, dairy-free ice
mm,
creams in the grocery store.
yeah,
I didn't like any of them. But there is that idea of like, oh, we've been having something for so long, so how on earth could it create a problem now? But
yeah,
if I have regular, like I can't even think about having regular, like full dairy ice cream. And even actually some dairy frees that I've
mm,
come across, I don't know, they may have other chemicals in it where I'm like, but like that's how sensitive um
mm,
and how like, I don't even want to say how sensitive my body has become. More
yeah,
so, that's how much I'm able to tune in better to how it is that different things affect my body,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
that I feel like that's what it's about. And remember, like, yes, I can't have the regular Haagen-Dazs strawberry that I grew up loving, but I found this amazing plant-based coconut ice cream shop that's in Nashville that I'm obsessed with.
yeah,
And I love it even better. And guess what? I can eat that. I have absolutely no reaction.
yeah,
I can breathe after I'm not stuffy. My stomach isn't like in
yeah,
pain. So it's just for me at this point, it's not even worth it anymore to
yeah.
yeah, because there's other options, right?
I admire you. I'm not there yet. I'm like,
It's not easy, but it's really about,
yeah,
the habit of it. And
yeah,
again, for me, and sometimes actually, when was this? I think it was around no, toward the beginning of the year. And
yeah,
that's another thing actually I wanted to touch on really quickly because I know some of us are, dealing with food allergens,
mhm,
which again, I never really had allergies of any type until I moved to Tennessee, and then I developed like
mhm,
seasonal allergies all year round, right? So like every season I had something that I was allergic to.
mhm,
But this idea of the histamine, and I'm not sure how familiar people are with, histamine levels and how
mhm,
they um, affect your body. But I've also realized that I really have like histamine intolerance, right? So different foods have different levels of histamine depending on the food itself, depending on how you prepare it, depending on how you store it.
Mm-hmm.
It can affect the histamine levels of food. So if you're someone who, maybe
Mm-hmm.
you've tried some different foods that don't seem to be, you don't seem to have a reaction to, it
Yeah.
could be the histamine level, right, of
Mm-hmm.
different foods. So that's something to really pay attention to as well. Like I said, toward the beginning of the year, I was having issues with histamine levels. It
Mm-hmm.
was awful. It was awful. I was like, I had hives. I've never really had hives before.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just because I've been having some
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and it's like simple things like,
Mm-hmm.
cinnamon, for example,
Good.
right?
Yeah.
And so I love cinnamon. I'm a little bit obsessed. Like I just love the smell, and so I put it
Mm-hmm.
in my morning cereal or like, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I had just been having too much of it, and my body was
Yeah.
like, nope, none of that. So I had to
Oh, wow.
ditch, all of the higher histamine things
Mm-hmm.
because it was just too much for my body. So that's another thing people should look into if you're having a reaction to foods and you've
Mm-hmm.
done some elimination, can't quite pinpoint, try looking into histamine levels, getting your histamine levels checked, and then eating accordingly to reduce those.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Okay. So, audience, I know we've been ignoring you. I'm sorry.
I have to confess, it's kind of hard for me to keep up with all the people, so I'm hoping that you did that.
Go back right now and then we'll just answer questions before we move on to another topic. Carol says that will be hard. I love my cereal. I'm assuming removing gluten.
I
Uh,
know.
Aggie says she's looking for an alternative for cream or milk in her coffee.
So actually, nowadays there are tons of dairy-free options. So I know some of the more popular, right? Some of the more popular brands like, oh shoot, I can't even think of them because again, I'm not a coffee person. But
Coffee,
Coffee Mate, maybe. Like,
yeah,
there's really popular brands now that have also come out with dairy-free versions.
yeah.
So yeah, look into those.
Coffee Mate is dairy free because it's in my cup. Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay. So yeah,
yeah, I'm still having a minor reaction to it though because I have issues with fat intake because of my gallbladder. But it is
right.
free if you're looking for dairy free. Yes.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like I've seen a lot more of those dairy-free creamers
Yeah.
available, like, coconut based
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Coconut's a really good one, right? Coconut's yummy. Uh,
Yes.
Coconut milk. Yeah. If you're looking for like, is it specifically because you can't do dairy or like why are you looking for an alternative? That might be a better thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Take it. Oh, Kev said 1,200 calories seems really low. Yes, that's like the minimum you should have every day, right?
Yes, I was sorry, I was being facetious. I was
Yeah.
just like, because because I feel like there was a point in time when that was the norm. Like, here's a 1,200 calorie diet that's very cookie cutter, that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with exactly what it is that your body needs, but
Mhm.
here it is, right? So,
Um,
yes, that is very low. No adult should be eating 1,200 calories a day,
no.
male or female.
Do you have a time frame for like gluten and dairy, Angel, or is it ongoing?
So for me personally, I just avoid it. Period. And I've accepted that that is going to be my life now. And the thing is, I've found enough ways to enjoy the things that I like
Mhm.
that don't affect me, right? So I found, for example, I wasn't a big milk drinker, but I
Mhm.
like milk in, my breakfast cereal.
Mhm.
And so I use hemp milk, like this vanilla hemp milk is
Okay.
so good. It's from Pacific Foods. I don't work for them, I promise. But I just love it. Like this vanilla hemp milk, it's so creamy and so
Mhm.
yummy.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I've just found things like that that allow me to still, eat things that I like in the way that I like without having them trigger my system.
Yeah.
If you're someone who doesn't have a specific diagnosis and
Mhm.
you're wanting to go through this on your own, again, I recommend minimum 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Um, and, up to 4 or 6, just depending on what it is that you're experiencing and where your system is. Because a lot of times too, what people don't realize is that when your body is in, constant inflammation, attack mode, it can take some time to calm that,
Yeah.
right? So eliminating something for a day or a
Mhm.
week and then going right back to it
Mhm.
isn't necessarily going to be enough time for your system to be like, okay, let me chill out because we're not having this thing that is constantly triggering me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, minimum of 2 weeks I recommend,
Mhm.
but longer if you can to
Yeah.
really, and again, depending on where you're starting at, right? If you're someone who
Yeah.
just is feeling overwhelmed with everything going on in your body, like, oh my gosh, I have all these allergies I can't get under control, and I'm constantly, chronically bloated and da da da. Like if you have a ton of things going on, then I say stretch that, give yourself even more time. And that's the thing too, Jen. People don't realize allergies. I remember, like I just said, I didn't have allergies, like environmental allergies, before I moved here.
Mhm.
And I went for an allergy test, and I'll never forget. I was
Yeah.
like, why am I even doing this? Like, this is a waste of time. Like, I don't have allergies,
Yeah.
right? And they did like the skin scratch test. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh, what's the point of this? I'm like, fine. And so, they put all the things on your back, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was so itchy. And my husband had taken a picture. I was allergic to everything, everything, everything. And I'm
That's
like, oh my gosh. Again, didn't tune into the fact that, yes, I was sneezing like crazy. My
yeah.
nose was running all of the time. Like,
Yeah.
these are the signs and symptoms that our body gives us, right?
Yeah.
But it's so easy to overlook it.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that too because it then you start researching things and then you link things up. Like I love bananas, but for some reason,
Hmm.
sometimes they hurt my stomach. And then I was researching them and apparently there's a link between marijuana allergies and banana allergies. And when I was pregnant, I developed I've never smoked marijuana, but like people, I've been around people who've been smoking marijuana, and I have severe allergic reactions to it, like vomiting reactions.
Oh, wow.
So I linked them up that apparently people with marijuana allergies also have a sensitivity to bananas. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like I've never personally smoked it, but the reaction I'm having to it, it's like I've been smoking it for years, like
Yeah.
marijuana, because of having
Wow.
vomiting reactions to just the smoke of it. Yeah. So, but then I linked it up. I'm like, oh, so this is why the banana is hurting my stomach. That's really weird that these two are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But even if you couldn't necessarily link it, again, like some people, and it amazes me, like some people would be like, oh, that banana, like, oh, like my stomach hurts when I eat it, but they'll still eat bananas. It's like, oh,
But they don't hurt my stomach all the time, right? It's like, if okay, so they hurt my stomach more if I haven't eaten anything before I eat it.
hmm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's what I found out. Like, so if I'm eating breakfast and I have a banana with my breakfast, then I'm fine. But if I'm just eating the banana on its own, then I feel it more. Yeah. But I like my bananas.
I know. Listen, I get it. It's really hard to get rid of things. Like foods that we love, foods
Yeah.
that bring back memories, foods that help us feel happy, right? Like there's so much, we tie so much emotion really to food.
Yeah.
But, that's what I I know, but if you are someone who is dealing with issues, with your system, I would
Mhm.
say, and again, I'm all about
Yeah.
and I'll be honest, I think earlier in my career, I've been in the wellness space for a really long time. And so
Yeah.
I think earlier in my career, I was much more um, like, oh, well, that's okay, right? Like, go ahead. But now I'm like, your body is telling you something, right? Like, listen to what it is that your body is telling you. Only because, Jen, I know the impact of that long term,
Yeah.
right? Like I know, and because I've been there, and
Yeah.
because as a result, I've had this whole other journey that I'd
Mm.
rather not have had to have, but
Yeah.
here I am, right? So that's why I'm even more like, oh my gosh, your body is telling you this, and this. Just find another fruit. But again, that's just me and where I am in in this journey. But I do want people to, to understand, like, there's so many other things. Don't do that to your body. Your body doesn't like it. That's like, you
oh,
know, that's like if somebody like smacked you in the forehead every time you went to see them, right? Like, hey Jim, pew, hey Jim, pew, hey Jim. Pew. Like, are you gonna keep going? Right. So I
yeah.
don't know.
No, it's funny. It's like something like it's like you know you don't like that reaction, but but you keep doing it. It's like why do you keep doing it? It's habit,
Right. And you
habit.
would be surprised. I know. And you'd be surprised how many women that come to me for help. Like
Yeah,
sometimes it is a battle, like a battle, and they're dealing with even more severe symptoms, right? So they'll eat something and I mean severe diarrhea, right? Just for example. Sorry, I went there really quickly. TMI. But yeah, and I'll be like, okay, like let's like get rid of it. Oh, but so you would much rather have severe diarrhea every single time you eat this thing than just to not have it? Like, yeah, well, I mean,
hmm
right, you know?
I gave up Alfredo, people. Come on, you can give up your.
I know. Oh my gosh. But yes, and again, I'm not saying it's not hard. I know it's hard. I live that hard every day. I posted the other day, he made like these roasted potatoes. And
Yeah.
I loved potatoes. I
Mm.
love potatoes. I can't do potatoes now because same idea. It's like my body will let me know right away, like,
Yeah.
So,
I feel sorry
yeah,
for people that have so many different things, and it's like, okay, just tell me what I can eat, right?
right.
Right, got all the things that I can't.
I know. But there is some hope. So, I really believe that once we deal with some of
Mm.
the underlying things, that you
Mhm.
can start to reintroduce some things
Okay.
and not have those really, really, really severe reactions.
Mm.
But that requires taking some time. Like I said, gut health is huge, huge,
Yeah.
huge, 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 huge.
Mm.
Um, and again, depending on where you're starting, that can take a really long time to
Yeah.
get to the bottom of.
Mhm.
Um, just for example, again, my husband, like we've been on this gut health journey with him, like ever since that doctor's appointment I was speaking about earlier.
Mhm.
It's been a year and a half of like
Mhm.
persistent, consistent,
Yeah.
deep gut work
Yeah.
because his gut was jacked. Don't tell him I said that. But just like, he'd had like little issues that he never ever ever paid attention to because he's like, oh, my
Mm.
body's always been like that. It's always been like that. I've always had this. Like I've always had this little bit of bloating, or I've always had,
Mhm.
this reaction when I eat food. Like always, always, always. So
Yeah, for sure.
he never thought that that was not normal, right?
Yeah. And
Until he started getting like really sick. And my husband doesn't get sick. Like
mm.
our whole marriage, I think, so we've been married 13 years. I think he's been sick um maybe twice, as in
Oh,
like vomiting kind of thing. Yeah, I think like twice.
okay.
Um, so the second time I was like, okay, hold on. Let's let's do some deep, 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 deep diving into gut health. And
And
it's
you also be missing things from your diet too, right? Like
yes.
a person that I know, I don't want to tell who because it's their own private issues. So a person that I know, their girlfriend was vegan. Um, so he decided to, well, she wanted him to be vegan too, right? So that they could eat because they live together. But they ended up going to this blood doctor in Guelph, and she ran blood work on him, and his body could not handle being vegan based on his blood, whatever was going on in his
Right.
head. That it was making,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what? That's something that's really, really important. Because like I mentioned earlier about kind of the idea of cookie cutter
yeah,
diets or cookie cutter, what I call eating styles.
yeah,
Not everyone
mm,
should be eating every style, right? And so that's a really, 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 really good point. I actually have a client just yesterday. He's like, oh, can we do like a vegan week? And I'm like, okay, why? Number
mm,
one, like, what's the why? And I'm
yeah,
like, understand that it's not as easy as you think.
yeah,
And in order to really, like, you have to be really conscientious about making sure that your body is getting still all of the nutrients, right?
yeah,
Um, So yes, I think it's really, really important for people, regardless of what eating style you choose, excuse me, making sure that from a nutritional standpoint, your body is still getting everything it needs, right?
Yeah.
Because when you are eliminating meat, for example, there are certain amino acids that your body is not getting. So you're going to have to find a way to either find those in other foods or supplement them. So
Yeah.
again, it's really, really important that you're covering all of your nutritional bases, regardless of how you choose to eat, so that
Yeah.
you're not putting yourself at a deficit or creating nutrient deficiencies, because we know that those deficiencies will basically be setting yourself up for some bigger problems down the road. So,
Now, I wanted to touch on that a little bit more with you. I just wanted to get Carol's question answered quick. Um,
mhm.
sherbet better? She's asking for the ice cream.
Sorry, say that again.
Is sherbet better than eating regular ice cream? Like,
Oh, like sorbet.
yeah.
Um, so it depends what the reasoning is behind it, right? So if you are someone who
Mm.
doesn't, and again, I always feel strange saying it doesn't have a dairy sensitivity, because I'm a firm believer that everybody has sensitivity to dairy, right, in some level. And we do know that it contributes to inflammation, regardless of whether you're dealing with, an inflammatory based disorder. It still contributes to inflammation in the system, right?
Mm.
So, sherbet, um, if you're someone who isn't actively dealing with, a huge inflammatory response in your body, yes, it is a little better.
Mm.
But yeah, I would still, again, I'm a really huge proponent of, if you are someone who wants to like feel like vitality and have energy and
Mm.
not have issues with um, digestion and bloating, and I'm telling you, gluten and dairy, those two things in and of itself will make a huge, huge, huge difference. Huge difference.
Mm.
Again, even if you're just like, oh, like I feel pretty good, but I'm telling you, like I've had clients that never in a million years would ever think of giving up those two things. But when we're, going through some symptoms that they've missed, like, oh, how's this? How's that? Okay, let's just try this, right?
Mm.
And you will just, your system, your body will feel better. Your body will function a little bit better. It will have that less inflammation.
Mm.
And then the longer you eliminate and keep that stuff out of your body, it just feels better. Remember,
Yeah.
chronic inflammation, guys, yeah, it just, and it's not just, right, gluten and dairy. It's the sugar that's everywhere, the processed food that has all the sugar that's everywhere, right? Like that also contributes, obviously, to
Yeah.
inflammation. But that's really the big thing, and that's why I've even pivoted my work to helping people deal with inflammation, because we
Mm.
know that chronic inflammation
Mm.
is what leads to disease, right? Mine happens to be Graves' disease and autoimmune disease.
Mm.
For other people, it's other things, but it absolutely leads to disease. And one of the big ones that no one wants to hear, right, is cancer. It's driven by inflammation.
Oh yeah,
And
cancer.
so,
Eat off your sugar. Yeah.
right, right. So it's like the more we
Yeah.
can get rid of all of those inflammatory foods, the sooner you're going to feel better, and you're going to be, basically contributing to your own wellness in the long run. And I know it's hard. But yes,
In
try
the
some.
then it's gonna start a whole new on eating allergy free.
Yes, or just low allergen, right? Low allergen.
It's funny that you say that because part of my cake business, I had allergy free recipes for those that couldn't handle it.
Oh,
Yeah. So maybe I should start bringing those onto my channel for people.
yeah, I would love that
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
recipes, I bought all these allergy free books. I developed recipes for cookies, cakes, and stuff that were dairy free, gluten free, soy free, you name it free.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe I'll do that for one of my segments and stuff so you guys can still enjoy your cake and cookies.
Yeah, there are ways, and that's the biggest thing I want people to know is I know that it's hard, but there are ways to still enjoy, some things that you really enjoy, but without constantly triggering your system.
And
Because
make them taste good. That's the key
yes,
point. Yes.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Because it's, in the long run, it's not worth it. You know, if your long run is a day of sneezing, or if your long run is,
Yeah.
3 days of having to spend extra time on the toilet, or
Yeah.
maybe your long run is something a lot more serious,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I just say,
Mm.
why?
Yeah. Oh, Leanne says Jen's gluten-free dairy-free cake is amazing. Thank you, Lee. That's my best friend.
Oh, oh, are we gonna get to see one of those?
Yeah, so I will do this. I have a new segment coming out. I can't talk this morning. That's in done. I'm gonna be doing baking and cake decorating and stuff. I will pull that recipe out for you, Leanne, and I will do it for an Instagram segment for other people too.
Okay, yay. I love
Um,
it.
the last thing I wanted to touch with you before I let you go, I know we've been talking for an hour. It's just there's a lot of people that follow me that do work out, and some of them their goal might be weight loss, some of them might be building muscle and stuff. But I wanted to talk up to you about because there's this misconception that sometimes you need to cut calories in order to see gains, and sometimes
Mm.
you need to add calories in to see progress. So I wanted to touch on that with you a little bit of how can people figure out what the best calorie range is for them working out or like the fitness goals.
Yeah. So I will say this. Firstly, especially us women, right? Most of us women are not eating enough food. And,
Mm-hmm.
and let me rephrase that, are not eating enough quality, nutrient dense food, right? And so, if you're someone who is, you're working out, whether you're just starting out or you've been, hitting the gym, and you want to make the most of the time that you're spending there, um, from a total calorie standpoint, I really recommend getting with someone who can help you customize, your calories based on what your goal is, right? So the amount of calories that you need, the amount of micronutrients that you need, but did I say micro? I meant macro. Macronutrients that you need. And then but also making sure that you're paying attention to micronutrients, right? So yes, protein, carbs, and fat, really, really important, obviously. But guess what? So is vitamin D. So is iron. So is
And you,
copper,
yeah.
right? So you need to make sure that you're also getting those things in.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I would recommend getting with someone who can customize that for you. I'm really, 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 I'm really, I really want to discourage people away from the cookie cutter idea of approaching nutrition because our bodies are so unique, and respond so differently
Yeah.
to different food timing, different food
Yeah.
combinations.
Mm-hmm.
It really is something that should, if I would say if you're going to spend money, anywhere in your wellness journey, I would say start with nutrition, right? Because we know that the majority of your results are going to be coming from what it
Mm-hmm.
is you're eating, how it is that you're eating, how you're fueling your body, how you're replenishing your body after your workouts. And
Yeah.
again, I'm really not a huge proponent of like, oh, everybody do this, because I
Yeah.
have so many clients that, what works really well for one person
Mm.
does not work right for another person. And so, yeah, I will say, like I mentioned earlier, definitely like nobody should be eating 1,200 calories a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And if
but
you're
there's a lot of,
then you're not
oh,
feeding. That's the other thing.
right,
They need to be starving to be making progress. Like, no, if you're hungry, then you're not fueling yourself enough.
exactly. Yeah, and I would say, even more so than looking for specific calories. So, again, making sure you're getting enough protein, carbs, and fat, making
Mm.
sure that you're dealing with micronutrients, making sure you're getting those in. But again, tune
Mm.
into your body. Your body will tell you if you get into the gym and you
Mm.
have no energy to make it through your workout,
Yeah.
you're probably not feeling your workout enough.
Mm.
Or if right after your workout you're so exhausted that you have to go to bed right away, then you're probably not replenishing your body well
Mm.
enough after your workout.
Yeah.
If throughout your day you have absolutely no energy and you're dragging your feet,
Mm.
again, you may not be eating enough um,
Yeah.
calories overall. But if you tune into your body, you'll get a sense of that. And if you're looking for, detailed information,
Mm.
because there are online, there's
Mm.
calorie calculators, right? You can plug in your height, your current weight, right? Your current weight, your weight goal. Like you can do that. There's those things that are free online, but it still doesn't necessarily help you and your body based
Yeah.
on what it is that you want to do and where you're starting from, right?
Yeah.
So if you're someone who's
They're
struggling with,
not so great because they undercut the amount of calories that you need, and it's like I can't function on that.
no, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I would say if you must start there to get a sense, because maybe even that would help somebody who's like, oh, I'm currently eating,
Yeah.
1,000 calories a day, but this calculator tells me I should be having
Yeah.
1,800, right? So that
Yeah.
could be a good place to start, just
Mhm.
to give you a sense. But
Yeah.
again, it's not going to be, it's
Yeah.
not going to really tune into you and your body and what your body needs based on where you're starting from and where you want to go.
Exactly. And if you're not, like Angel said, if you're not seeing progress, start with your nutrition. So
Yeah.
contact Angel.
Yes, contact me.
Maybe she's up here on your screen. I don't know, but she's below up. You can Angel through Instagram, as she said, or what's your website again?
It is simply defined fitness.
Okay,
Yeah,
so findfitness.com.
.com. Yes,
Okay.
I forget that because I'm not in Canada anymore. It would be a .ca if I were in Canada, but yes, .com.
So I will put that link to below this video when the replay is posted too, so you can go easily find her. As
Yay.
I'll tag her profile if you're interested in like I can't talk, contacting Angel. Jen's like gone away with the words. Contacting Angel for her services. So you focus on mainly nutritional plans, right?
Yeah, so I do. It's funny because I also do fitness, obviously because I'm a certified personal trainer and I've been competitive fitness pro. So I do love fitness as well. More so these days, I'm doing more corrective based stuff. But yeah, I'm more than happy to help anyone who has fitness and workout related questions too. So
Anything for fitness and for nutrition, you can contact Angel. I will tag her username below as well as her website. And I just wanted to read your 2 thank yous before you go. This topic is one that hits home for me. Thank you so much for bringing this one to light, from Leanne.
thanks, Leanne. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
And Ev says, this has been really awesome. Both Jen and Angel, really informative. Learned a lot this afternoon. Fabulous. Thank you both. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Thanks for being here. Yes, let's connect. So I'm like, it's so funny because I've had this funky relationship with social media. It's like I love it, but then it overwhelms me sometimes. But I'm really like I really want to connect with people. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you have questions. My DMs
Yeah,
are always open, so DM me and yeah, I'll help out as much as I can.
awesome. Thanks so much, Angel, for joining me. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And
Thanks for having me.
see you soon on Instagram at some point.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Enjoy your day.
Thanks, Jen. You too.